From Super League to Olympic distance to age group world records to Kona. Go longer with the right fuel at the right time with SFuels.
This is a phenomenal bike ride, and I can tell you he's so casual. This is his first time he's ever biked the full 112 miles here in Hawaii. He's never been up to the turn in Harvey. He's certainly been up there today. Doesn't he look...
Hey everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from beautiful St. George, Utah. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spa, Zoot Sports, the original triathlon brand, HOKA, Let's Fly, SFuels Go Longer, Biostarks.com, use the code BWB for a 10% discount, Quintanaroo, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zions Bank, Premium Plus Sports, and of course, our Challenged Athletes Foundation. This last week, we raised $3.1 million. Keep challenged athletes in the game of life through sport. Our next guest, who also loves it here in beautiful St. George, Ellie Salthouse. How you doing, Elle?
Hi, Bob. I'm good, thank you.
It has been way too long.
I know. Yeah, a couple months now, I think.
It has.
Yeah.
How you are like basically a resident here. How long you been here?
Yeah, we've been here almost 4 months now. Yeah, since the end of June.
And you love it here.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it got very hot over the summer, which we love, and now it's cooling off. But it's beautiful here, and yeah, really easy to get around, and has everything we love.
Now the changes in the course from the last time we had 70.3 Worlds.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think the bike course flows a lot better than it did in previous
It's
years.
exactly what Jackie Herring said.
Yeah,
yes.
so a lot less out and backs and just a nice loop.
Yeah, the way it should.
Exactly.
Rather, it looks like they're trying to get mileage, right? When you're out and backs.
Yeah, so I think it flows a lot nicer. And I think having the run course primarily downtown will make it a lot more spectator friendly.
Totally.
Yeah, so it'll be nicer for the athletes to have the spectators lining the course, hopefully.
Yes.
And also great for the spectators to be able to watch the athletes.
So, 11th at PTO US Open. And it's funny because we think, you can finish 10th, 11th at those races. Those are world championship fields when you're going through something like that. And getting 11th is basically the prize money for winning a lot of races.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've only raced championship races this year. So
You really have. Collins Cup, Canadian Open, 8th there.
Yep.
Elsinore. Yeah, you have raced championship races.
Yeah, pretty much. So I feel like this Friday I've been prepping for this all year. That's all I've been doing. So, yeah.
I remember when we were back in Nice, I mean, same type of the build-up. You tend to go to these events and go, okay, if I'm racing here in St. George, I'm going to know every inch of that course. You want to be totally prepared. What have you gained from the different times you've done that? It's like you're focusing here on this race. You've done that before. And some races are great and some aren't.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is I like to stand on the start line knowing that I'm prepared as possible. And I think knowing every inch of the course and knowing the conditions and, how much to pump up my tires, just little things like that really is going to play into my advantage. I like to know that I've left no stone unturned. So, yeah, I think I've done that this year. 2019, I felt exactly the same way, having spent so long in Nice prior to the race. Unfortunately, something out of my control happened. Yeah, I had a mechanical. But yeah, I mean, feeling that prepared, it takes off a lot of the nerves and the pressure, and it just means that I can pretty much go out there and do what I've done for the last 4 months. So
when I look back at the 2016 to 2021. 18 wins in those, basically in 4 years, 5 years, but 7 wins in 2021. I mean, you've been on fire.
Thank you.
Right? I mean, you've really, really. What has led to just more consistency? What has been the big change?
Well, the last 2 years I've been able to stay injury-free, which has really allowed for consistent training, consistent racing, and I think for me that's been the biggest change that I've made. Other than that, I think, I'm coming into these races with a different mindset, trying not to put as much pressure on myself. I think earlier in the sport, in my younger days, like I made every race almost as if it was my last.
Right.
And I think, I got to the start line with so much pressure from myself that I was just crumbling. So I'm trying to relax and just trying to use every opportunity to race the best in the world, which this year I've had plenty. So this Friday really feels no different to any other race I've done this year.
So as someone who got into the sport so young
Mm-hmm.
and actually got to the point, at one point you were burnt out and moved away from it
Yep.
and then came back, what brought you back to it?
I felt like I had unfinished business in
Yeah.
the sport. Yeah, I really, really missed that competitive aspect that I just couldn't seem to find anywhere else.
Right.
And I knew when I walked away from the sport that I wasn't ready to completely walk away, but I felt like I needed to for my mental health at that time and to really just find my purpose in the sport and find really what I loved about it. And yeah, I mean, I really missed the competitive side. I missed the community that triathlon is, and I missed racing.
So when we were over at Collins Cup a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
that was really fun because it was all about rivalries. It was all about Jan Frodeno throwing a life preserver to Sam Long and
Yeah.
calling it by athlete, and then the hand-to-hand combat with you and Holly.
Yeah.
Watching that swim, it's like you guys decided, okay, this is my lake, and you can't be in it.
Yeah.
You guys were usually you'd see something like that for 100 yards to the whole swim. It was hand-to-hand combat. How hard was that to swim that close to somebody for so long?
It was awful, to be honest. I mean, that's definitely not the smartest way to approach a swim.
You're using so much energy.
Yeah, it actually slows you down swimming right next to someone like that, but neither of us would give an inch.
No.
I mean, we're both so stubborn that, like, you know, we wouldn't let anyone take the lead. So, I mean, we ended up with the whole swim side by side. So that's how it worked out. It was terrible, though, because every stroke you would get hit in the head.
Right. Yeah. But rivalries are what makes sport great.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, for people who don't understand our sport, they understand, the major media understands ball sports.
Yeah.
Baseball, football, basketball, soccer, they understand that stuff. But they don't cover our sport maybe once a year, if that. So when they look at some two athletes who maybe have a little bit of a rivalry, maybe have a little grudge against each other, did you feel that was actually good for the sport?
I definitely think so. I think it brings people in, and people want someone that they can support. You know,
Right.
when two people have a rivalry, they want to be able to back one of them.
Right.
You know, so I think it brings in people that may not know anything about triathlon.
Yes.
And it allows them to jump on board and get behind an athlete and, you know, hope that they come out on top. So I think it is great for the sport. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's the best thing ever. During when I had my magazine competitor, the Mark Allen, Dave Scott, and Paul Newby Fraser, Aaron Baker, we did a photo shoot with Paul Newby Fraser and Aaron Baker, 3 hours, not one word was said between the two of them. It was like we were in an ice box for 3 hours. It was just one would go over here, go, okay, we need you to come 2 inches from each other for the photo. Now, are you guys friendly, or is this still a rivalry? How do you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely friends off the field.
Yes.
I think we're both really fierce competitors on the field.
You're very much alike, by the way.
We are very alike,
Yes.
and each of our disciplines are actually very similar. So
Yes.
I think out of the entire field, the two of us are probably the most similar athletes out there. So
You're always going to be close to each other in the races.
Exactly. So we're very, very competitive. But off the field, like, we are friendly. We you know, take the time to say hi to each other and go out of our way. So I mean, there's not really that much rivalry.
And so for this particular race, you've been here for so long. The whole idea is obviously the finish line's right behind us.
Yes.
There's no reason you can't be winning this race.
No reason at all.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's if you're going to be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm here to win. I wouldn't be lining up at a world championship unless I thought that I could win.
Right.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's been in the sport as long as you have, a lot of people have been in the sport. It's like Sam Laidlaw, who was in Kona with us and leading the way. He was like, I've been dreaming about this since I was 11 years old. I want to be in Kona.
Yeah.
You've been in the sport since you were 11 years old.
Yeah.
Do you want to do something like the full Ironman, or are you like, I don't really need to be doing something? This is, in this day and age, you guys are in a great spot.
We are.
Super League is there.
Yep.
Olympics is there. Ironman is there. 70.3 is there. Collins Cup and 70.3 is really, you can make a living without even thinking about being out there for 140.6.
Exactly, 100%. I definitely have unfinished business in the half distance.
Yes.
I'm not done with that yet. So, you know, I eventually one day maybe I'll step up, but I want to feel like I've fulfilled my dreams in the half distance before I then create new ones for the full distance. But yeah, at this stage, I love this distance because it means that I can race more often, I can recover more easily, and I think that, yeah, we have so many opportunities at this distance now that, I mean, there's no need for me to step
right.
up. Yeah.
The other side, I think, we look at obviously a lot of the negatives of COVID time. The positive was that people got a consistent block of training without traveling, without packing up the bike. Yep. Did that help you in terms of, okay, I can't go anywhere, I can't travel overseas, I need to focus here, so I don't have to worry about taking 3 days to recover after that race or this race. How did your game change during that time?
Yeah, I was actually very fortunate for that period because it meant that I was able to do some things I wouldn't normally have the opportunity to do. So change some things up in my training, train for the pure enjoyment of it, fall back in love with the sport, which sometimes when you get wrapped up in travel and racing and, nervous tension, you lose that a little bit. So it gave me that opportunity, and it also gave me a nice consistent block. We were lucky enough in Australia that we actually had racing during the COVID period. So I was able to do some domestic races, which may not have the depth of field that the international races do, but they did have some strong athletes there. And I was still able to race, still able to fulfill that competitive side of me without having to travel internationally. And I think that big consistent block of training and racing really allowed me to have such a successful season in 2021.
Well, in that 2021 season when you win 7 races, right? And the nice thing about that is winning becomes a habit, right? It does. It becomes a habit, and it doesn't really matter who's there or isn't there. The idea is you still got to get across the line first. You've got to. You're racing against yourself. Did you find yourself appreciating the racing more that once it came back? And it's like when I look at the amount of times you raced in 2021, it's like almost the person who'd been hiking in the woods and ran into a buffet. And was like, I better...
A racing buffet.
A racing buffet. I better race because I don't know if this is going to happen next year.
Exactly.
I better enjoy every second of it.
That was the mentality, especially starting the season with all the Australian season, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to travel overseas. So I took advantage of every single race that we had in Australia, not knowing whether I'd be able to head overseas. So luckily I was, which meant my season was very long with a lot of races. But I enjoyed every single one of them. And I think when something you love is taken away from you, you appreciate it more when it comes back. So last year was a grateful season for me because I was able to kind of take advantage of every single race, not knowing whether there'd be another one.
Exactly. What would it mean to you to win this race?
Oh, everything. I remember the distinct conversation when I was 11 years old telling my parents that I wanted to be a world champion. So it would be an 18-year dream in the making.
That is so cool. Ellie, thank you so much for taking time.
Thanks,
It's
Bob.
always such a pleasure to chat with you. And hopefully we'll be chatting in Championship Edition on Sunday.
I hope so. Thank you.
Ellie Salthouse has been our guest. That is a wrap for Day 1 of Breakfast with Bob from beautiful St. George, Utah. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And check us out tomorrow. See ya.